Hi, welcome to Real Cajun 2024. I know it sounds weird saying 2024, but that's when I started the channel. So for the time being, it will be Real Cajun 2024. Anyway, recently I spoke to Kevin Rees. Kevin is a French-speaking tour guide at Vermilionville here in Lafayette. Not only is Kevin a French-speaking tour guide, he is a raconteur, a storyteller extraordinaire. So here's the interview with Kevin. At the end of this interview, I will have some resources for you if you would like to connect with other French speakers and maybe join a French table. So here's Kevin Rees, a raconteur. Ici, aujourd'hui, les vrais Cajuns, moi et Kevin Rees, ça c'est deux Cajuns qui a jamais parlé avant. Je l'ai vu ici à Vermilionville, mais pour parler avec lui, c'est un plaisir aujourd'hui. Kevin, je connais, tu viens originalement de Guédon?
J'ai été élevé en Guédon et Lacateur.
Ah oui, oui.
Oui, mon père était un fermier, on a élevé du riz et des vaches.
Un fermier, ça c'est un mot, je n'ai pas attendu de trop. Un récolteur, j'ai attendu un peu. Il y a des mots que moi et toi va user, mais le monde dans l'immersion programme, ça va pas comprendre.
Oui, il y a beaucoup de paroles qui sont différentes. Comme ici à Vermilionville, j'ai travaillé comme un guide français. Et le grenier où les garçons se couchaient,
Oui,
pour nous en Louisiane, c'est le garçonnière.
oui, oui.
En France, le mot garçonnière, c'est une mauvaise parole. Pour les Français, c'est un appartement, un homme marié tient à côté quand il a une maîtresse.
Ben oui, 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 oui. Ça c'est, j'ai dit.
Il comprend les mots sont différents ici.
Mais c'est des mots qui est vieux parce que ça change pas.
Oui.
Oui.
La langue est comme la vie, toujours grouillée.
Ben oui, oui.
Comme il a dit en anglais, you cannot step in the same river twice.
Non.
C'est la vie, ça continue.
Oui, si tu peux faire ça, t'es mort parce que ça t'a arrêté, je pense.
Je me rappelle écouter mes grands-parents, mes parents parler français, mes grands-parents jamais usé les mots anglais. Et mes parents souvent mélangeaient anglais et français.
Oui, oui.
Parce que il n'était pas de cette génération qui était puni pour parler français. Pour moi, il continue à parler français, mais il parler français plus simple comme un enfant. Mes grands-parents, par exemple, un steamboat, pour eux, c'était un bateau à vapeur.
Oui.
Quand il était jeune, le seul langue était français.
Oui.
Il a un mot pour toutes les autres différentes choses.
Oui.
Pour mes parents, il était éduqué en anglais, élevé en français, mais éduqué en anglais. Mon père joint l'armée. La langue a changé. On a oublié beaucoup comment t'appelles, future tense.
Oui, oui.
T'as écouté la vieille musique. Il a usé, mon oncle a chanté une chanson qui s'appelle L'Oranger. Nous irons, nous boirons, nous tarirons les verres, nous les remplirons. Les Cajuns ne peuvent pas comprendre cette parole aujourd'hui, mais quoi il veut dire, we went, we drank, we emptied them and refilled them. C'est une chanson à boire.
Oui.
Et moi j'aime écouter les vieilles musiques pour ça. Et j'ai aperçu le vocabulaire était plus grand pour eux. Aujourd'hui, il a rapetissé.
Puis c'est le vocabulaire. J'ai un ou deux amis qui viennent de Houma ou plus bas. Puis il y a des mots dans le vocabulaire, c'est pas la même vocabulaire que nous autres.
Et mon oncle, il vient de une petite place qui s'appelle Pinkoville. C'est l'autre côté de Basile.
Oh, tu m'as perdu.
Et il m'a dit qu'on marié avec ma tante, il aidait mon grand-père. Mon grand-père lui dit, va chercher un corps. Il a mené une fille. Il dit, non, 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 une corde, un rope. Il dit, oh. Il peut comprendre, mais les paroles sont un peu différentes.
Oui, oui. Mais les mots, ça peut être changé juste un peu.
Oui.
Puis ça fait une grande différence. Oui.
On a dit un blague souvent, je suis sûr tu as entendu avant. parler avec un homme le même âge comme nous, il regrette jamais parler français, jamais apprendre.
Oui.
Where you from, y'all spoke French differently from us. It's funny how everybody spoke French differently. Oh yeah, it's true. How would your grandmother have said, for example, I didn't understand, say that again, c'est le même tout partout, mais il a dit, j'ai pas compris, dis ça encore. That's not how my grandma said that. How did your grandma say that? Ah!
Oui, c'est tout le temps.
C'est universal, tout partout. Ah!
J'attends pas, je te comprends pas. C'est tout le temps la même chose.
Ah!
Oui, bien sûr, c'est la même chose. We need to talk a little bit about some of the differences we've talked about already. But last night, the school board did something that just blew my mind. Would you tell us a little bit about what happened and how's it going to go from here on?
I'm not sure exactly what happened. I understand they're cutting $1 million from their budget, eliminating the pre-K immersion. That is an age where it's so important to immerse these kids early. They're like sponges. They learn.
Right.
I always tell people learning French is not simply to save the past, the heritage. It's our future. Louisiana has so much tourism here. It's such a big part of our economy. We could grow it even more. We need all the help we can get.
Sure.
I work here. We have many days where I barely speak English. We have so many French visitors here, either from France, Quebec, the Caribbean, all around the world. And why do they come here? They come here because they want to hear somebody speak French. They love our accents. They love our stories. But when you lose your language, you lose your culture. But more than that, it's going to take a big bite out of our economy if we lose the tourism. And it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's beyond just your heritage and saving the past. It could be our future if we would put more into it. I never could understand why school board all across Acadiana always want to cut out French immersion. J'ai donné une entrevue à Will McGrew.
Oui.
Il demandait quoi tu crois s'apprendre pour sauver la langue française? J'ai répondu une révolution. Révolution, quoi tu veux dire? C'est pas pour dire je voudrais jeter les Molotov cocktails.
Mais non.
Pas une rébellion, mais pour mettre le feu dans les cœurs de nous, pour trouver le valoir pour notre culture et trouver notre farité. Mes grands-parents, ils étaient fiers d'être français. Ma mère m'a dit avant la Deuxième Guerre mondiale, mes grands-parents jamais célébré les fêtes Thanksgiving ou 4 juillet. Ce sont les fêtes pour les Américains.
Ah oui.
Ils se considèrent comme français. Et après, leur enfant était poussé dans l'école. La Deuxième Guerre mondiale a changé la société ici.
Oui.
Il a devenu de plus en plus américain. Il célébrait cette fête. Mais quelqu'un demandait l'autre jour, do you consider yourself an American or French or Cajun? I say, I'm very proud to be an American. I love my country. Mais je ne suis pas américain.
Non, il y a une différence.
Only somebody from here, Quebec, could understand. I love my country. When I think of the term Américain, I don't think of the term American in English. That's that other group of people.
Right.
We're different. Our history here, it's sad in school, quand étudiait l'histoire de la Louisiane, il y a peut-être 1 ou 2 paragraphes pour l'histoire des Français. Et l'histoire de guerre de 7-11, le French and Indian War, c'est dans un footnote. Le maître a jamais expliqué, pour la plupart, vous êtes ici à cause de cette guerre.
Oui.
On n'a jamais appris notre histoire. Notre histoire est très intéressante, très plus intéressante. L'histoire des Anglais, c'est Plymouth Rock et Jamestown. Il faut que vous connaissiez. Pour comprendre cette culture, c'est la culture des Américains.
Oui.
Mais les Français étaient tout partout. Nouvelle-France était ce grand territoire.
Oui.
Il a commencé dans le Caraïbe, arrivé à Mobile, Alabama aujourd'hui, jusqu'à Texas. Les montagnes Appalachies, les États Alabama, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio,
Oui.
Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, jusqu'à Montana était pour la France.
Oui.
Malheureusement, le roi de France n'a jamais développé ces grands territoires.
Non.
C'est pourquoi on a perdu la guerre. Mais ce territoire était pour la France. J'ai recherché souvent généalogie pour les différentes familles. Et j'ai trouvé nos ancêtres étaient durs, ils sont obstinés pour survivre dans ce pays
Non,
sauvage.
pas des Cajuns.
Les Cajuns, les Français, tu
Oui.
vois, la population de Louisiane avant les Espagnols a pris la colonie. Quand il a donné la colonie, la population ici était moins que 4000 Français, 4000 esclaves et 500 gens couleur libre. La population était très, très petite, mais elle a survécu. Plus que moitié des colonistes qui arrivaient ici est mort après 2 mois.
Oui.
C'était une terre sauvage, une terre dure pour survivre avec les différentes maladies. Les colonistes français qui réussissent ici étaient, ils sont tough, durs. Et les Cajuns étaient expulsés. Beaucoup de Cajuns étaient exilés pour 30 ans avant d'arriver en Louisiane. Ils survivent. Malgré toutes les différentes difficultés, ils survivent.
Oui.
Il a trouvé la vie encore ici. C'est un héritage incroyable.
Let's go way back because we got sidetracked. Let's talk a little bit more about the meeting last night. Is that going to be instantaneously, like in this coming semester, they're going to drop it? We don't know.
I don't know.
I thought it was kind of strange that they had this meeting at 5:00 on a Wednesday, but it's impossible to get a meeting set up for everybody. But my God, you got kids going to soccer, to trampoline and everything else. The parents can't go to a 5:00 meeting. Can they go to an 8:00 meeting? Can they go to one on Saturday? You just never know. You know?
I found that very strange, the way they did that. All of a sudden it's cut. They did not ask the parents what they want.
Yeah.
I don't know what the total budget for Lafayette Parish is, but my God, immersion is such an important part of our culture here. Yeah. And it's very short-sighted. And I wonder what they're going to do with $1 million they save. That we're going to see.
Well, we'll just see who gets the raise.
Maybe. It's just not fair.
It's not fair. And children are sponges, like you said. Yeah. They pick up language. That's how I learned to speak French. I stayed with my grandmother all day while my parents worked. When they got home, I spoke English and French. Yeah. And fortunately, I spent so much time with my grandmother. But it's like, I see some people who say, well, I heard French as a child, but I never learned to speak it, and I would learn to speak it. And it's a long, hard road. It doesn't just happen.
You know what I wish we would do as a state? We have Spanish signs everywhere. Everything is in Spanish and English. And I love Spanish people. Don't get me wrong. I tried to learn Spanish myself. But there was once a time when we had newscasts in French.
Right.
We heard the weather in French. A lot of the French I learned was riding on a tractor. We had one tractor that had a radio.
Oh, man.
And boy, when I could take that tractor to plow all day long, I would listen to KJEF and Jennings, Jerry Dugas.
Man.
And I'd listen to Cammy Doucet, KSIG. And I remember the first commercial I memorized. Si tu as besoin d'un char, viens voir tous les vaillants vendeurs des chars à Baba Celeste Ford, à Jennings, Popeye Green, Owen Richard, Robert Doucet, tous les vaillants vendeurs des chars. And when I went home and repeated that, my parents laughed. They said, wow, you got that down. And I would hear a song and I'd ask the hard hands, what is that song? And, you know, they would teach me French and it was everywhere. And today you go to TV stations like, well, there's no money in that. We as a people need to get more militant. And I'm not talking about some radical stuff.
I understand.
But we need to get more insistent. Damn it, we want our culture saved.
Absolutely.
And the only way to do that right now is through immersion. People our age are lost causes for the most part. I've heard this so many times. I wish mom and dad had taught me French. Well, there's nothing stopping you now. And you know way more French than you realize. Most people are scared to mess up.
Yeah.
I tell people I mess up every day speaking French. And you know what? I mess up speaking English too.
Yeah.
I'm well educated, but there's a lot of English words I don't know. So why do you fear? But there's a mental block in our minds put by, this program to wipe our culture out. Yeah. I'm active in this movement. I started a French table in my hometown in Gaydon. So many kids I grew up with tell me, I speak French. You do? We never spoke French to each other. For me, that was a language. If you learn it, you speak that with your grandparents, your parents, maybe at the table. You learn a few jokes. You talk with maybe the hard hands in the rice field.
Yeah.
Your old aunts and uncles who don't speak English, but you don't speak that with your friends. Why not?
Interesting you bring that up, because I was thinking the same thing the other day. I don't know if any of my school classmates spoke French from first grade on. I have no idea if any of them spoke French. And now I know that a few of them did. Mm-hmm. I have one friend whose father was from France, moved here after the war, and my friend never learned French from him. And it's like, you're 75, 77 years old. It's not too late. You look at people like Rogers Romero, talking about people like Madame Helen. Yeah. Rogers, mind-boggling. At 70, he decided he's going to speak French. Yeah. But he copies everything down. He writes everything. He's meticulous, but he's going to be 90, I think, next birthday. Wow. And it's amazing. He speaks perfect Cajun French.
And Alain Simon is another one. That old man's incredible.
Yeah. Rogers was born in Biloxi, and there are a lot of Romeros in Biloxi. There are a lot of Cajuns in Biloxi. So he heard it. That's a good start. Yeah. And you mentioned about Spanish. When you get down to it, my name is Romero. Right. A lot of people say, well, you're not Cajun. Well, yeah, I'm Cajun. Yeah. And until a long, long time in my life, it never dawned on me that I wasn't Cajun, right, that I should have been Spanish.
Well, what is the term Cajun? We get in discussions all the time about Creole versus Cajun.
Yeah.
To me, first of all, that divides a few of us left who are part of the French-speaking culture.
Right.
You want to be a Creole, be a Creole. You want to be a Cajun, be a Cajun. A lot of Cajuns, a lot of people who call themselves Cajuns are not Acadian. But I remember my grandparents telling me Creole means either black people who speak French or les Français Nouvelle-Orléans, ils portent son néon large.
Oh, oui.
That was, they didn't like those Creoles. So a lot of French people, like the Ville Platte people, in Mamou, they're not Acadian. They might have some Acadian ancestry.
Yeah.
I have French ancestry as not Acadian, but I consider myself Acadian. 75% of my ancestors were Acadian. They didn't want to be associated with those snobby people either, so they call themselves Cajun.
Interesting that you say that, so many of your ancestors were French. When you get right down to it, I have very few Acadian ancestors. But I can trace the Romeros to Malaga, Spain.
Right.
I know the church where my great-great-grandfather was baptized. But yet I also know the other side of my family with my mother, where there are Begnos and Sauniers and the Hulans and others like that. And even with the Romeros, my grandmother was a Norman. And from what I understand, Norman, Norman, those were people that came west of the Mississippi. The ones east of the Mississippi were Le Normand.
Wow.
And it's like, really? I didn't know that. And I know some Le Normands here, and I know some Normans. It's just
a lot of times names change. I do a lot of genealogy. My girlfriend is a LaPointe. Her ancestor adopted that as his deep nom. His real name was Goran or something like that. Mm-hmm. The Cajun Clément family, they were really Vincents. There was a Clément Vincent. He moved away from his family, probably got in an argument with him or something. So he called himself Clément.
Man, no.
I know, and you see a lot of that.
Oh, my God.
I had an ancestor. He was from Quebec, Nicolas Chauvin, dit Lafrenière. And that's an example. Everybody knows him as Le Frenier, not Nicolas Chauvin.
Right.
And, it's hard to do research back then because it would change their names all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And like in Canada, there was a guy named Philippe Mayus d'Entremont.
Okay.
He was lieutenant governor. He was kind of eccentric. He received a 50,000-acre land grant on the southern tip of Nova Scotia.
Wow.
He was very close to the Micmac. One of his sons, Philippe II, married two Micmac women. One died. He remarried another one. And today, we don't have many d'Entremonts in my uses down here, but in Canada, there are a lot of d'Entremonts. The d'Entremonts, for the most part, are the descendants of the white family, and a lot of Micmac bear the name Mayus or Mius.
Yeah.
Been anglicized. They're the descendants of Philippe and his wife. He had like 17 kids.
They didn't have internet then.
Huh?
No internet then.
No, they didn't have internet.
God, that's crazy.
And it's amazing when you go back. And like my great grandmother was a Benoit. There were 6 kids in the family. They were sent to France. They were captured on Prince Edward Island. They had escaped the English early. One child came here. His name was also Nicolas. He married a LeBleu from Lake Charles. The other 5 kids returned to Canada. I found a lot of their descendants. They mostly live in Newfoundland now, but a lot of them go by Bennett, not Benoit. Been anglicized. And young, a lot of youngs are really Legends.
Yeah.
Even up there.
I had an army friend. His name was Arsenault, Arsenault. And I'm like, what you mean? Arsenault. He's from Massachusetts or somewhere like that. Did not speak French. I had another friend from Baltimore. His name was Laborde. Did not speak French.
I want to show you a picture of a school.
From
140 years ago. This was my great-grandfather's school. He was a schoolmaster. Grew up in Brobridge. After the Civil War, he relocated way over there by Lake Arthur on the east side of the lake. He started a little country school. There was a little thriving community. It no longer exists. It was called Cypress Point. Cypress Point is still there. There's still people living there, but back then it looked like it was going to grow.
Yeah.
Interestingly, before 1913, schools in Louisiana were given the choice to teach in either French or English or both. 2 of my grandparents were educated in both French and English. It was a written language, and only when they passed the Constitution in 1921 to just wipe out this language. And we've been fighting so hard. And it's disappointing when Lafayette Parish does what it did.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate them still having a French immersion program, but my God, $1 million, you could have cut something else.
Yeah. You could have cut something else.
Yeah.
Or the way they went about doing it, it's all of a sudden this meeting, the agenda's out and everybody's going, what the heck?
I know it was done, like we say, en dessous, underneath.
Yeah.
And they did not want the public to have time to comment, obviously, because the way it was done. I mean, I don't mean to criticize them, but it was awfully damn funny to me.
Yeah.
And it hurts. It's a slap in the face. Right?
I just wonder if there's any way that can be reversed.
Nothing is set in stone.
Well, that's true too.
I think if enough people opposed it, you remember when they were trying to shut down Dussault School and one on the north side? People raised Cain about it. Well, we need to do the same with pre-K French immersion.
Well, like they say, lâche pas, don't let go of that.
Yeah. You know, if people ask me what makes Cajun culture different, and I don't know if we're necessarily different from everybody, but I think 2 things define our culture: perseverance and humor.
Yeah.
I grew up on a rice farm, and I heard this so many times, and unless you grew up on a farm, you can't really understand this. Daddy would say, you don't quit when you're tired, you quit when you're done.
Yeah.
You can't be tired till you're done. So I don't want to hear it. Go. And you keep going till you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And, that's bred into us. Beausoleil Broussard, who's the ancestor to almost all of us. That old man fought so hard, so tenaciously, never gave up.
Yeah.
And he brought his family here and he planted his roots here. And we have more Broussards than we have people here today.
Yeah, yeah.
They're everywhere.
And
I've got a lot of Broussards.
I didn't even mention some of the other parts of the family. My mother was a potier, so needless to say, that's as French as they come.
Oh, yeah.
My wife was a Broussard with Landry's and other people in her line.
Yep.
So we're Cajun beyond belief. And Kathy cannot speak French.
Yeah.
But she understands better than she gives.
Yeah.
So you got to watch what you say around her. Yeah. Oh my God.
You know, it's so important that we save this culture.
It is.
I'm from Vermilion Parish. Vermilion Parish boasts it's the most Cajun place on earth. They want tourist dollars.
Yeah.
But we have one French immersion school, and I'm told the school board would love to cut it out.
Yeah.
You know, they're always battling to stay afloat.
Sure.
It's you can't make that claim if you're not willing to back it up.
Yeah.
As late as the 90s, Vermilion Parish had the highest number of French speakers of any parish.
Yeah.
Today, you hardly hear the language. I was in Mouton Cove one morning. I walked out there, a bunch of guys with gray beards. And I said, "Quoi ça dit ce matin?" They looked at me like I was crazy. And I realized, boy, this culture is dead.
Oh, my God. In Mouton Cove, you couldn't find anybody.
Yeah.
And
they weren't that old. They were my age, but they looked old, and I guess I look old too. But, you know, it's like you realize, 15 years ago, anywhere you went in this area, you would have heard a conversation in French.
Yeah.
A hardware store, a grocery store, a restaurant, a cafe. Yeah. You don't hear the language anymore.
No, you don't. Well, you know, it's when we get down to French words and how it's used and stuff. Every time I hear somebody say chemin metairie, it drives me up the wall. It's chemin. And it's like, it's not verrat, it is vero.
Yeah. I'm working on a play. I don't know if I'll ever finish it, but it's just a one-man act. It's an old man who returns from his grave to walk through his house one last time before it's demolished. He tells his life story. He says, "I was born in this house. My parents built it. My mother died young, giving birth to my younger brother. I stayed with my father. I raised my family in this house. I held my wife in my arms for the first time in this house. This land was precious to me. My grandchildren who live in Dallas and Arizona, they don't care about this. They're bulldozing this house in the morning. They're going to build a subdivision here. A bunch of strangers are going to live on this land that I worked so hard for. When does it stop? You know, when do we have enough subdivisions? Don't you value what I valued? You don't even speak French. You aren't even Catholic. You don't care about the land. You don't even know how to ride a horse. You wouldn't know how to grow a garden. And yet you sell what was so precious to me for a few dollars.
And you get your roux out of a jar.
Yeah, you know, and you think about it.
Yeah.
And we're losing our values. You know,
Yeah.
we're not like we used to be.
I ran across some young people at Gator Cove a while back. I don't know if you know Ray Cloutier.
Yeah.
Ms. Ray, a dynamite person. Well, anyhow, she had a French table there, and I went and I videoed everything. And there were two guys. One works for Cotefield, and I can't remember his name. And there was another young man. And it's amazing how well they spoke French. And I thought one of them spent a lot of time in immersion. He did. But I knew he was Cajun when he said, "Et quand j'étais à high school." And the other one said, "L'école haute." And it's like, "L'école haute." No, say high school ici à Lafayette. So just, you know, it's amazing how there's little bits of difference there. You know?
I know, you know, it can be saved.
Yeah.
But we have to insist that our officials do what's necessary for us. You know, I have nothing against Hispanic people. I think they're beautiful and wonderful. They're a great asset to us. But God dog it, what about our language?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
how about To continue in English, don't press anything. To continue in French, hit 1. To continue in Spanish, hit 2.
Exactly.
Why not?
And why not have the news in French, the weather in French again on radio stations? And give them a tax break. Give them something. And everybody remembers, on va soigner ton char comme le char nous autres. Everybody remembers that. Why don't businesses advertise more in French? I'd be glad to do a commercial for free just to hear the damn language on the news again. He left an indelible mark on everybody our age who heard that commercial. Everybody can at least say that.
Yeah, they can. I mean, people that they sound like they're from North Texas, but they can say it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is amazing, you know. And speaking of Texas, my mother had some friends who got married and moved to Texas, right, to Dallas. Well, they'd come home every 5, 10, 15 years. And the words were, elle est trop fière pour parler le français. Non, c'est pas fière. Elle a oublié comment parler parce qu'elle attend pas le français. You got to speak it, man.
Tu use pas.
No? Oui.
I see that with a lot of old people. I went to the nursing home in Gaydon. I have a French table in Gaydon. We decided to go pray the rosary in Gaydon.
Yeah.
So it was so sad to visit that home. They take very good care of these old people. I knew them so well younger. I'm Kevin Rees. Yeah. My mom and dad were Milton and Wanda. Oh, I knew your parents. We're here to say the rosary in French. You want to pray with us? Oh, my mama used to, but I don't know how. So me and Lloyd Swear and Orlean Bellord, we started praying the rosary in French. About the middle of the third decade, all of a sudden the lights went off. They all started praying in French. And then we sang, Mon bon vieux Marie, Saut Crapaud. These old people were giggling like little kids.
That's great. That's great.
And, you know, we say often that I go back home and everybody's so gloomy, but they quit speaking French. When you speak French, you have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's an emotional language.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And you learn, often tell people when you love in French, you love much deeper.
Yeah.
When you laugh in French, you laugh more often and louder. And boy, when you mad at somebody in French, boy, that just sounds so much more serious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. and you know, you mentioned learning Spanish. It's like, I'd like to learn Spanish.
Me too.
Because with a name like Romero.
Yeah.
But it's at 77, I don't know if I want to commit any more time to learning stuff that I probably never use, because I'm going to edit this video. I do lots of editing, lots of things that, you know, I do. Yeah. But it's like, do I want to commit some more time to that?
But, you know, I find learning something keeps your mind sharp.
Oh, sure.
I love to learn all these old ballads.
Yeah.
They're complex. There are a lot of words I don't know. I got to look them up. Or luckily somebody translated the song already. Yeah. But, you know, it expands my vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I find it keeps my mind active.
Yeah. This is totally random. But this young man I mentioned earlier, that he's from Westlake. He lives in Dublin, Ireland, and he comes home I
think he visited here.
Yeah, yeah. His name is Cade. He plays accordion.
Yes. And I met him.
I got a song that he recorded the other day with what was his name? I'll think of it later, but he recorded the song. He was at the guy's house. He says, how about this? And they recorded it. And it's like, I listened to the words and I'm like, God, they don't, because I think we have to move into the 21st century in some respects. You can't keep singing Saut Crapaud. It's a great song and those people remember it, but I remember songs when I was growing up. So we have to give them something to grow up. And this guy, he wrote this song and it's like, it's current. It could be in English on the radio.
Dewey Balfa, before he died, somebody interviewed him and they asked him, how do you feel about these young musicians changing Cajun music? He said, life is not static. It keeps going. Yeah. And you have to go with it, just like the water in a river. So I took the music my grandparents gave me and I made it my own.
Yeah.
So when I hand this music to the next generation, they do what they want with it. They make it their own. So you can't remain traditional only. You need to expand it and make it something viable
Yeah.
and relevant in today's world.
Yeah. And see, that's what I was getting at. It's, you listen to all the greats, and we have so many in South Louisiana, but the melodies and everything may pertain to us, but the words don't.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of words out there in English, just make them in French. That's it. And this young man, he's 36 years old, decided to learn French, and he's living in Ireland.
Yep.
And, he's on my French table once or twice a week.
Wow.
And he's learning. It's still a bit stilted when you're in a conversation with some people such as you and I, or anybody that says, mon nom est. I would always say, mon nom est Ken. People are taught to say, je m'appelle.
Yeah. You can say it either way.
I know, but it blows my mind. It's not, I call myself that. That is my name. Ça se fait, moi, je vais dire, mon nom est Ken. But it's,
my grandparents would have said, je m'appelle.
Really?
Yeah.
And see, me, just the opposite.
Yeah. And, but I mean, whatever you wanted to say is okay. Cajun French, Louisiana French, Creole French, whatever you call it, there are a few fast and hard rules.
Yeah.
And everybody's going to say it differently. If they understand you, then that's what we want. Now, I always believe in expanding and improving the language, but however you want to say it is okay. Just say it in French.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you said je m'appelle, I would understand you, but it's just so many things that.
Well, another thing I remember asking my parents, how do you say, I wash my hands? You can say, well, je me lave les mains, or you could say, je lave mes mains. Either way, but the correct way is the first way. And ask my grandparents, oh, no. je me lave les mains. You don't say it the other way. That's not right,
Weird.
But you see, my parents spoke French fluently. That was their first language. But they go to school and they start learning English. So we structure a lot of our sentences like English.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes I find myself talking to somebody and it's, oh my God, got to flip the whole thing over because it's in French. It's just totally strange, but you get it, man. You get it. And
I know a lot of times when I leave here, we get so many French visitors here. I'll go in Walmart and I'll start talking to French.
Oh man,
in French, and it's like, what? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, let me change gears now. English again.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, it's a beautiful language.
Oh, it is.
And you talk about the fun we as Cajuns have. Oh, there's so many people that take too many things too seriously.
I know.
You gotta slack off a little bit.
Somebody wrote a book. I forget who it was in the 80s and 90s. It was kind of a spoof on Cajun culture where we are, but it was geared toward people our age. And they said, to the American mindset, if what you're doing is not making money, you're wasting your time. To whereas a Cajun thinks if you're not enjoying your life, you're wasting it.
Yeah.
And I told my son when he was growing up, you take those two philosophies and you combine them.
Yeah.
Because what good does it do you if you make millions of dollars, but you're miserable, but you can't just live for pleasure too. You have to be somewhat serious and make a living.
Yeah.
And, I can remember, Ken, when I was a young boy going to visit with old aunts and uncles who barely spoke English or didn't speak English at all. We'd start laughing, telling stories. Next thing I knew, my stomach was burning from all the black coffee, but I kept drinking it because the conversation was so much fun.
Yeah.
And just recounting old stories.
Yeah.
You're talking about Miss Helen. Her brother-in-law told me a story I love about my grandparents. He said during the Depression, he'd gone to spend a week with my grandparents, donc Charlie et Tante Youn. Il allait au village pour acheter le café et plusieurs d'autres choses. Quand il est revenu, il a dit, mon grand-mère, mais Youni, ça c'est quelque chose. Le gouvernement a passé une taxe sur le tabac. La prochaine fois, tu vas savoir, il va passer une taxe pour embrasser la femme. Mon grand-mère a répondu, Charlie, on nuit pas, tu vas pas payer autant de taxes. He wasn't affectionate. Stories like that are so funny. And that was our culture.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting with old Doc Bergeron in Scott, good friend of mine, very dear friend. He He was born and raised in Scott. Late 30s, they moved to Butte La Rose before there was a road there. His mom was a school teacher. The money was too good to turn down, so they went. And he would tell me some really funny stories. Il y a un homme de Lafayette, il n'a jamais payé les doigts, il n'a pas de bon crédit ici. Il a trouvé le travail à Saint-Martinville. Toute l'après-midi, il marchait sur le Grand Rue, il arrête avant un magasin, il y a des chapeaux dans la fenêtre. Le propriétaire a sorti, il dit, monsieur, tu arrêtes toutes les après-midi pour admirer le chapeau, tu voudrais acheter un? Oh ouais, moi je l'aime l'un là. Mais ça va te coûter 10 piastres ou quelque chose. Il dit, mais j'ai pas de l'argent, mais il va me payer samedi qui vient. Tu me donnes crédit. Non, je peux pas faire ça. Mais pourquoi? Dites-moi donc pourquoi. Je te connais pas. Je peux pas donner le crédit. Mais ça, c'est quelque chose. À Lafayette, il me donne pas le crédit parce qu'il m'a connaît. Ici, il me donnait pas, il m'a donné crédit. They don't give me credit because they know me here. They don't know me. They don't.
Ça, c'est un blog cajun.
Oh, ouais.
Ah oui, c'est bon.
Or like the compilation of Beck Do. Have you ever seen that book? My favorite one is the old cowpokes at the bar. Little crumpled cowboy hat, broken nose. He tells the bartender, je bois pour oublier. Mais oublie quoi? Je ne sais pas, j'ai oublié.
Ah oui, bien sûr. Bien sûr.
That's Cajun humor. And, as time goes on, we're losing that. And that's who we are. I learned French. It was a struggle. I didn't go to school in French. I took French in high school, but by then I couldn't learn anything because I understood the French my parents and
right.
grandparents spoke.
Right.
But I was hesitant to speak it. But I got my courage as I went on. But when I became really fluent, I felt like I kind of found my soul.
But you have to be brave,
Yeah, you can't be scared of messing up. Lloyd Swear from Gaydon and I were talking, a lot of young people, they start in French, they switch to English. I do that myself.
Me too.
You have to make yourself continue speaking French.
Yeah.
And you can't find the word, stop and think about it.
The other day, I found myself arguing with myself in French. Dans la tête. Ça, c'est mauvais. Quand tu parles à toi-même, puis tu jures à toi-même, c'est difficile. You said something a while ago, and we've said it a couple of times in this young man I told you about, the guy, he's living in Ireland. But anyhow, I said something about tu veux, and he says, where did that come from? Why didn't you use tu? And I said, it's kind of like we and we. You have yes and yeah. And vous only got, that was for the better than you people or the older people. And we started saying tu.
Yeah.
And this is even further out. It's you got vous, tu, and ti.
Yeah.
And ti isn't used as often as tu, but it's used, and I don't think anybody really notices it. No. And I didn't realize that I'd used it until that time. It was like, wow.
And a lot of what we think is broken French, like bon Dieu. I remember Barry Onsley talking one time, and he said him and Richard Guidry did a very deep study, and that was the way our ancestors spoke. It's not a corruption. They would kind of, the D would become J almost, bon Dieu.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, it's hard for some people to realize that and I got this off of YouTube a couple of years ago. The French you read in school is not the French they speak on the street, whether it's in Lafayette or it's in Paris. It ain't the same, man.
Well, the English we learn is the same English they learn in Boston, and we don't speak alike. It's so true. So, getting back to immersion, teach kids how to read and write standard French, but let them go home and talk to grandpa and grandma and learn our dialect.
Yeah.
And they should incorporate more of our dialect in French immersion. I know Vermilion Parish does.
Yeah.
And I think they're making an effort to.
When Coteaufield first started bringing teachers, there was the big hoorah about, they're teaching them Parisian French or they're Belgian teachers. There are none here. What the hell are we supposed to do? Materialize French-speaking teachers who spoke it 30 years ago?
I remember when Caudifiel first started, my dad was upset because those teachers were not trained. They would come here and mock us. And my dad's attitude was, go back to where you come from. We don't want this here.
Yeah.
And Barry Onsley made Jimmy DiMaggio realize, Jimmy DiMaggio wanted to incorporate us into the French world. He did so much for us. I'm not criticizing.
Oh, yeah.
But, you need to save this culture. And you're not going to get, that's like the English coming here and saying, you don't speak adequate English. We're going to teach you how to speak proper English.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to speak like you. And it was the same with the French.
Yeah.
And they realized, we need to adjust the program some, and they've done so much for us. But like we were saying earlier too, this is in danger. You will never hear that old Acadian accent like our grandparents had.
No, and when you and I are gone, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And I run across some young people that are in their 20s that were in immersion. Man, I'll talk to them and I'll make them strain to get the words. I want them to understand how to do it.
I don't know what it would take, but like I say, you got to rediscover your roots, rediscover who you are.
Yeah.
If people understood what our ancestors went through to survive here, they would never let go of this heritage or this language.
Yeah. They don't understand what our greats went through. And it's like not to demean the British, but damn, the British did so much to hurt our culture.
It was more the Yankees, the descendants of the Puritans, who did that to us.
Yeah.
And when you realize their plan was to eliminate us as a people, that really gets me angry.
Yeah.
And it fires me up. I don't want to say angry because I don't hate nobody, but it fires me up. It's like, you are not going to destroy me. If people understood that over half of our ancestors died, many people think, the 1750s, that's so damn long ago. My great-grandparents were born in the 1870s. I knew 3 of them. Their Acadian ancestors came to Louisiana anywhere from 110 to 100 to less than 90 years before they were born. That's not that long ago.
No, it's not.
And when you do genealogy and you see names like Charles Henry being thrown overboard because he died at sea, and you realize these people had our faces, they had our manners, they had our personalities, they were our blood. People realized the everything they overcame to come here. And I remember my grandparents, their French language was so dear to them.